My phone says 4:03, and I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Blaylock. I am currently a third-year member on USAC, the University Staff Advisory Committee, and I'm serving as our governance subcommittee chair this year. So we work a lot with the staff senators through the application and interview process. My colleague and USAC chair, Chrissy's on the call. Chrissy, just want to say hi really fast. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Chrissy Sprouse. I'm the current chair of USAC. It's good to see everybody this evening.
Thanks, Chrissy. She probably was not planning for me to call on her like that, but it's Wednesday. That's what we do. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to have Alex introduce himself in just a moment, but let's go ahead and get started. Advance my screen here. So again, my day job here at the university is in the College of Arts and Sciences. I'm a program manager for the International Affairs Scholars Program, which is in collaboration with the University Center for Honors and Scholars. And I've been with the university since 2015. I'm going to have my colleague Alex introduce himself really fast, if that's okay. So Alex, maybe your role here at the university and how long you've been here, and we'll get it kicked off that way.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Alex Thomas. I am a senior academic advisor in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering here at OSU in the College of Engineering and the Knowlton School of Architecture. I've been at OSU, will be 5 years this coming August. So excited for that first big milestone then. And I have been a staff senator now for 2 years with one more year left coming up in my term.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex. So just a little bit of housekeeping things before we kind of take a look at the content of tonight's presentation. Like I said in the beginning, this information session is going to be recorded and posted to our USAC website, so people can refer back to it if they need to. I have enabled the closed captioning feature just in case anyone needs it. So let me know if you're having any issues seeing that. If anyone has any questions or anything that they need throughout the presentation, feel free to just unmute yourself for a fairly small crowd tonight, or drop those in the chat, or you can just wait till the end. We have the built-in Q&A, some time allotted for that. I will follow up with everyone probably by tomorrow or Friday afternoon with a copy of this presentation, so you have it in your email, and also a link to a Qualtrics survey, just kind of gathering folks' feedback and suggestions on how to make this information session better for future applicants and application cycles. So that's important for us to know, and you'll get a link from me in just a few days. Before I get started, I did want to give a shout out and kudos to Tom Gazelles, because I may or may not have stolen large chunks of this presentation tonight from him. Full disclosure, Tom presented a very similar presentation a few weeks ago at a USAC retreat. And so I adapted a lot of his materials from this. So I wanted to give Tom a shout out, and Tom is currently a staff senator and the IT director for the OSU Health Plan and former USAC chair as well. So thanks, Tom, for helping me out, and you didn't really know it. So the agenda for tonight's info session, I'm going to very briefly go over just a University Synod overview at a very macro level. We'll go over a little bit of the staff senator opportunity as it pertains directly to staff. I have one slide on the application process. We'll talk very briefly about getting connected with USAC via other opportunities on how to get involved with us outside of the staff senator opportunity. And then we have some built-in time for y'all to either ask me questions or ask Alex questions or even Chrissy questions about the staff senator experience. That's what we will do tonight. And just for Alex, if at any point while I'm speaking that you want to chime in and add something or say, Stephen, that's not right, or what are you talking about, feel free to just unmute yourself and chime in. Or if there's something you really want to share in an individual slide, feel free to just go for it. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So really briefly, this is posted on the Senate's website, but the Senate has been founded since 1972. And it really is the university's shared governance model for faculty, staff, and students surrounding policies and procedures, big issues facing campus. So it really is the highest level of decision-making here at the university. There's currently 141 voting senators, with 5 of those being staff. So you're probably looking at the screen thinking that's a kind of a small number out of 141, but you have to start somewhere. And it really was a historic occasion to get those 5 folks as voting members and have that staff voice at the Senate. So it's really important for us. But there are 141 voting senators in all. A bulk of the work and a lot of these governance structures is going to happen at the committee and subcommittee level, which I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with. I'm not going to go through the 19 Senate committees because they're posted on the Senate website, but the Senate committees are broken up by topic area or theme. So we have the Senate Diversity Committee, the Senate Fiscal Committee, et cetera. And I believe 13 out of those 19 committees have a staff presence on them. So that's where a bulk of the work will take place. So more about just kind of general membership for faculty, staff, and students. Each one kind of follows their appointment process a little bit differently depending on who you are at Ohio State. So faculty members are elected from each of the 15 colleges based on size. So a little bit differently the way we appoint staff and the way that undergraduate students do it. Administrators at the university are identified through their key roles they have here on campus. And then undergraduate, graduate, and professional students will go through their respective governance bodies to apply an interview and become appointed to University Senate. So that's USG, CGS, and the Interprofessional Council. They select those student populations respectively. And like we'll chat about in a few moments, USAC has been tasked to select the 5 voting staff senators. So that's what brings us here tonight. So kind of in a nutshell, and I'm sure Alex will talk about this as well, is that senators are elected or appointed to represent their constituents here on campus. So if you're a faculty senator, you're representing faculty interest. If you're staff, you're representing staff interest, et cetera. But please note that staff senators are not in the position to impact wages or benefits or employment terms and conditions in accordance to the Office of Legal Affairs. So we want to put that disclaimer out that those staff senators can't impact any of those things I just listed, so be cognizant of that. This calendar is posted on the website. I think this is purely just for FYI to kind of get a feel of the time commitment of being a staff senator. I'm sure Alex can touch upon this as well. This is not the upcoming year. This is the current year, if I'm not mistaken. So they're getting ready to wrap up pretty soon, if they haven't already. But I believe that Senate meets every 3rd Wednesday of the month. And I believe they've been meeting on Zoom since the COVID-19 pandemic. Individual committees and subcommittees might meet more frequently. They might meet once every other month, depending on what that committee is. But this gives you kind of a good sense of the calendar of how often they meet and when other governance bodies meet as well. So it might be worthwhile taking a look at that calendar from the previous year just to kind of get a feel of what their schedule is like. And before COVID, I believe the Senate met in Drinko Hall, which is the Moritz College of Law. I don't know if that's going to resume in the fall or not, depending on COVID and things like that. So as it pertains to the staff senator opportunity directly, like I said at the beginning, we have 5 voting staff senators that were implemented in 2019, so only 2 years ago, right? Our staff senators appointed through USAC serve 2-year terms. You have to wait a year, a 1-year cooling off period before you can reapply to another 2-year term. We also select at least 3 Senate alternates, and those folks serve 1 year. Staff senators come from different units selected by USAC, and I think it's important to highlight this for just a second here. As everyone knows, Ohio State is a huge university. We have so many units and centers and departments, et cetera, that we really want to make sure that our staff senators are representative of various facets of the university. So we don't want all 5 senators from the College of Arts and Sciences, even though ASC is great. There's simply so much more to Ohio State than one individual unit. So we do take a look at that as folks are applying to the opportunity. Staff members do need to be on the official roster of a college or unit and available for both the fall and spring academic year to attend the Senate meetings and to vote and attend committee meetings and things like that. If you assume a new role here at the university that contains the words dean, provost, or if you're lucky enough to be the president in the next, and that's not likely, but we're here using this as an example, you are not eligible to serve as a staff senator. This is purely for staff at the university. So once you rise to that dean level or that provost level, you're going to be ineligible, at least on our side of things. And if that doesn't make sense, please feel free to let me know. And then, of course, like I said in the beginning, USAC coordinates the application, interview, and the selection process for staff senators and staff senator alternates. We'll chat about that in just a second. So what do the staff senators do and what do we want them to do as voting members of the Senate, right? So first and foremost, the way I look at the staff senator role, and Alex will have more insight on this, obviously, is you're really there to build relationships and to collaborate with other senators here at Ohio State. And obviously, building relationships with the other staff senators is incredibly important. But you also want to develop relationships with student senators, graduate student senators, and faculty senators as well, because they make up the bulk of the Senate. We want our staff senators to obviously attend and vote in all Senate meetings. That's why they're there. Participate in any of the Senate committees in which you are assigned. You need to stay informed and updated on the major initiatives and projects facing campus, of which we all know are so many happening at once, whether it's transitioning back to campus post-COVID, Workday, career roadmap, all those things, GE, curriculum, revamp, all that fun stuff that's happening at the university. We need our staff senators to be informed of what's happening at the larger university scale, right? We want the staff senators to highlight things that impact staff here at the university that are taking place at the University of Senate, issues relating to diversity, equity, inclusion, anything about the nature of work and how it impacts staff at the university. We really want our staff senators to be advocates for that larger staff voice here at Ohio State. And this was taken directly from Tom, as he's been in the role for 2 years, and the role will continue to evolve as the staff get more integrated into the Senate. But future tasks, might include providing communication regarding Senate priorities to staff across all units at the university, raising questions from colleagues and staff members in the university community writ large, engaging more with USAC, depending on what's happening in the Senate and what that relationship might look like in the future. USAC and the staff senators, particularly the executive committee and USAC, have a pretty close relationship, so they're staying informed of what's happening in the Senate and vice versa. And then, of course, looking at ways to further engage staff on Senate committees and partnerships throughout the year is really important to get an even deeper experience in the Senate. So really quickly regarding the application process, the applications are due this Monday, the 31st to the USAC email account. As I'm sure folks have seen already posted to the USAC website, we do have an application form, a cover letter / essay with targeted questions that we want you to answer within 2 pages. And we want folks to include a copy of your most current resume. It's also a good idea to chat with your supervisor and let them know that you're applying for this opportunity as far as time commitments and things like that, but we'll defer to the applicants to have those conversations. All of your applications are reviewed by USAC members based on a rubric, and that rubric is also posted on our website for your review. Invited applicants will have the opportunity to conduct a virtual interview with the general USAC membership in July. So we will bring you to us for a series of questions that you'll be assessed on in the second phase of the interview. And just to kind of reiterate one more time, is both the application form and rubric are posted on our website. So please review both of those thoroughly. Obviously, if you have any specific questions regarding any of those documents, feel free to shoot me an email and I can help out as much as I can. For applicants that do advance to the virtual interview, you will receive a separate round of communication from a USAC member on specific details, what to expect, maybe some certain themes or topic areas you might want to do research in advance, but you will hear from us as those dates get a little bit closer. So just a few helpful resources. Like I said, I'll send this PowerPoint out by Friday afternoon, Friday morning. Obviously, the USAC website of what we're up to is important to look over. Senate.osu.edu. I'm sure everyone has already been on that website now. I'm just going to put it up there just in case. If you haven't come across this article, this is also posted to the USAC website under the staff senator section. Ohio State News published a great article 2 years ago when we first got this launched and the 5 senators came on board, providing a little bit of the history and context of how we got here and how we got those 5 staff senators to Senate today. So it might be a good idea just to review that article for a little bit of that context and background. I will be your USAC contact as the governance subcommittee chair through the application process. So like I said, if anyone has any questions, need assistance with anything during the written application part, feel free to just shoot me an email and you will hear from me, like I said, by Friday morning, Friday afternoon. Starting July 1st, USAC will be going through a transition phase with the new folks coming on and third-year members rolling off. So you will have, for folks that are applying to the Senate opportunity in advance to the in-person interview round, you will start hearing from someone that is not me post July 1st. But I'm sure they'll be very nice, and they will be your governance contact as we schedule interviews and give you all the final logistics and information for the virtual interviews, which will take place via Zoom as an FYI in July. So just want to throw that out there, that there's going to be that transition period for USAC that's coming up pretty fast. I have no idea how long I've been talking. Okay, I'm not doing too bad. 4:18. So I did want to be fairly selfish and give some other members of USAC and some of the work that we do here some credit and highlight other things that are going on that might be of interest to anyone who's considering applying to the Senate opportunity. If you're looking to get more involved on campus and further your professional development, or maybe you're already involved in your local staff advisory committee, consider applying to USAC next year. You will find information on our website. That application cycle typically opens, I believe, in March or April, Chrissy. I don't remember the months, but it's around that time. So it's in the springtime. So there's still a lot of time there. But please consider applying to USAC and reaching out to us. That's something that you're interested in. For folks in the audience, this might be of interest if you're looking for professional development funding to pursue a class or a certification or a conference, webinar, things like that. We partner with the Office of Human Resources twice a year to offer the Staff Career Development Grant Program. So if you're seeking that kind of opportunity, you want some funds for that, please consider applying for that. Keep a lookout on your email, and that cycle will open July 1st. So that's coming up pretty quickly. We also have opportunities for folks to serve on external committees throughout the year. Those occasions kind of pop up during the summer, depending on who lands where in our committees and USAC. But sometimes we do have occasions where we go to the general staff body and ask folks to serve on an external committee appointment. So you can find out more info on our website regarding that as well. I would encourage everyone, if you're not already, to go ahead and join the USAC e-newsletter just to stay updated on what we're up to on a monthly basis. When you log into our website, you should get an automatic prompt to join. If you don't get that, just shoot me an email. I'll be happy to get you registered for the newsletter. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn on what we're up to that way. And I'm sure a lot of folks know already, we host a lot of events throughout the year that are really great. We have one coming up actually Tuesday, June 8th. It's a diversity inclusion conversation series with staff on how staff can be a voice in issues of diversity, equity, inclusion here on campus, which is tremendously important. We had a conversations with the president event a few weeks ago. So we're always doing a lot of cool events and programs throughout the year that are open to all staff members. Those are all posted on our website and posted on our newsletter and our social media. I did want to plug really fast the great work that our Staff Affairs Subcommittee has done on flex work and flex time. Because of COVID-19, we were forced pretty much overnight for a lot of folks to be flexible, whether we liked it or not, and whether our supervisors liked it or not, right? So I did want to include a link to the documents and information that subcommittee has collected that might be of use to everyone on the call tonight, just as a resource. And like I said, I'll send this out with these links so you have it in one place, but I just want to throw that out there just due to COVID-19 and everything like that. And projected on the screen there is our meeting with President Johnson from a few weeks ago via Zoom. We all look very, clearly I was not ready for that photo, but that was just from a few weeks ago. So we're doing a lot of cool stuff. So I will be quiet now. I made it in exactly 21 minutes, which is great. But if anyone has any questions for me, or more importantly, Alex, feel free to unmute yourself and just go for it. Don't worry, I have some prepared questions myself if folks are feeling particularly shy. So Alex, you're not going to get off the hook no matter what. But does anyone have any questions, either for Alex as the current staff senator or anything that I can help with?
Thanks a lot, Stephen. This is Ashley Barsani. I might just ask a quick question. Thanks for that presentation. It was really helpful. And thank you also for advocating for staff voice to be heard at the Senate. Having 5 representatives there doesn't seem like a proportionate representation of the huge numbers of staff, but I didn't realize that that just started in 2019. So I'm really looking forward to digging into the history a little bit. My question is, with those 5 positions now, because the terms are sometimes multi-year, how many openings are there for the next term?
Sure. So we should have, I believe, and Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 people rolling off that 2-year term.
Okay.
Yes.
And
So
then
we will
all-
have, sorry, Stephen. So we'll
Go
have
ahead.
2 for 2-year terms, but then we also have 3 for an alternate. And Megan, I'm sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot, but we also have Megan Hastings here, who is a staff senator alternate, if you want to introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Megan Hastings. I'm a staff Senate alternate, and I would be happy to talk with anyone about that experience. I'm a program manager here at the Glenn College's professional development team.
Great. Thanks for those answers. Helpful. And nice to see you, Megan.
Hi, Megan. Nice to see you as well. I saw you pop on. Any other questions? Thanks, Ashley. Any other questions?
I have a real basic question. This is Rachel from Arts and Sciences Advising. Where does the University Senate meet?
So that's been interesting these past 2 years. So the first year, I think Drinko Hall was under renovation. So we met in a lot of different places across campus. And then I believe towards the end of my first year, we were finally able to get back into Drinko. And then not long after that is around the time that we had to switch to Zoom meetings for the pandemic purposes. So we haven't gotten word just yet on this next year as to where specifically we'll be meeting. I'm guessing it'll likely come down to occupancy rules from the university for health and safety purposes. So it is a pretty large group of 140 or so senators plus upper administration. So depending on where they deem the cutoff for the fall semester is probably how it will determine if we're still on Zoom or if we're back in Drinko Hall.
Anyone else have another question?
In terms of timeline, I know you mentioned the deadline to apply is the 31st of May. And if selected to do the interview with USAC, that would be in July. Do you have an idea yet when in July those interviews would take place, or a rough estimate of early in the month, late in the month?
The date that I believe we landed on is July 14th. So we'll send that info out for folks that advance to that round. Yep, and they'll be on Zoom. And just like last year, Megan, folks will be able to, theoretically, I won't, this is most likely the same case, that folks will have like top 3 preferences of when they would like to interview during a time slot. So there's a little bit of flexibility on our end as well. Yeah, we've made it work the past 2 years, astonishingly enough, with people's schedules. So we'll make it work this year. Any other questions? Well, I'll be completely selfish and ask a question for Alex. Alex, can you maybe give us some examples of success of where you raise an issue as it pertains to staff? And Megan, if you want to chime in as well, as a collective body that you weren't able to do pre-staff senators.
Sure. So, I think first thing is acknowledging that there's a lot of different spaces where we can have an impact for staff. So I think the most obvious one is in the general Senate meetings. Just by nature of having voting staff senators in those meetings gives us a chance to raise questions about how it might impact staff. And also hearing when the university president, the first year that we had staff senators, as well as this year, hearing them say, to the faculty, staff, and students in the room, because before, up until that point, it really was just faculty and students who were present in the room. And so it was easy for some issues to come up that, the staff perspective wasn't necessarily represented or taken into consideration, not out of malice, just, you only know what the perspectives that you have available in the room. Outside of those meetings, the staff senators as well as the alternates meet usually a couple days prior to the actual Senate meeting. So that way we can touch base on, here's the agenda. We can hear from USAC, in this case, Chrissy, as well as other members of USAC about what's been going on either in the steering committee for USAC or for Senate, excuse me, because the chair of USAC sits on the steering committee of the University Senate. so we could hear a little bit more in depth about what were some of the conversations going into setting the agenda, so we have an idea what's coming up for the given week, as well as raise other issues that maybe we've been hearing about from other staff to, having that monthly face-to-face time with the leadership of USAC. So that way we can get, raise some of those issues to their perspective that maybe just weren't already getting voiced by other current membership. So like I know one issue that came up from one of the staff senators, Lisa, who was serving on Rules Committee, which is, there are a bunch of different subcommittees within the University Senate. So I'll break it down with that. The larger Senate body is typically where votes happen on various issues, but the subcommittees are where a lot of discussions on those things that will come up for a vote are originally taking place. And so there's a lot of room for input at that level, at the subcommittee level. Lisa was serving on one, which is the Rules Committee, which looks at the rules of the university, the faculty rules, or the university rules ultimately. And so one instance that had come up was a discussion around a policy that would, in terms of people being able to use, one of the benefits of working at OSU is getting to use the tuition discounts. There is a rule in the books that for faculty members, they need to get supervisor approval or unit head approval to be able to take courses. And it comes down to the perspective that a faculty member already typically has a terminal degree. Is there a power differential that they'll have in the classroom because they already have potentially tenure within their department? If there is an assistant professor who is teaching the course, a lot of different questions come up. And so the question that had been raised was, should this same rule be extended to staff in that subcommittee? And they thought, for equity purposes, they thought, great, we should include staff. And they were looking for ways to proactively include staff in all the rules. When it got to the staff senators, we took the absolute opposite trend and said, for many of us, taking classes is outside of our day-to-day jobs. For a lot of people, it is wanting to use it as professional development. If you're taking classes, in the evening, there's a lot of programs at OSU that offer evening classes. If it doesn't conflict with your day-to-day job, why do you need to get the dean of your college to approve you to take courses? And what kind of hurdles does that set up where you need to get paperwork signed off by the dean of your college? And so that was it. We were able to push back on that and get that part of the rule squashed so it wouldn't be applied to all staff. So sometimes it's just those unintended consequences where, previously up until this point, faculty probably would have thought they were being inclusive and would have approved the rule, not recognizing that there were those unintended consequences. And so that was something that was able to come up through some of those monthly meetings of just the staff senators with USAC to talk over what were some of those issues. I don't want to ramble too much, so I'll list that as one example, but there's plenty of others where, behind the scenes, we were able to work with USAC as well as within the Senate and the subcommittee structures to push for various changes, as well as just being able to raise a lot of questions within the general Senate meetings themselves, which I know when we were in person, I think there was typically at least one question every meeting coming from one of the five of us in the in-person sessions, which I think is a great show of force that, the first year in, we were very engaged, asking questions to better investigate the issues at the university.
Thanks, Alex. Did anyone have any questions that were sparked by anything that was just said? Great.
Yeah, Alex, I actually had a quick follow-up question. This is Ashley Bersani again. So the 19 committees, it sounds like you're assigned to the committee. Are you able to kind of give your background or preference, but then just depending on where they need staff representation? Because obviously with only 5, we can't have representation in all 19 committees. And I'm wondering, maybe Stephen or Chrissy, does USAC have a say and say, hey, look, we definitely want our staff senators involved with these particular committees? That's kind of the first question. And then the second one is, in your experience, Alex, how have you ensured or checked in with your constituency to say, hey, look, these are the needs that are really prescient right now for staff members? And obviously the relationship with USAC is integral and key to that. But if you have any insights on that, or ways that you make sure, like, there's so many topics out there, all very worthy, but how do you really prioritize? as one of 5 representatives, what you choose to really move forward with your collaborators and partners in the Senate.
Sure. Christy or Stephen, do you want to take the first question on selection of folks for this, the subcommittees? Because I think you all might be able to talk through that process since USAC oversees that part.
Sure, and I'll let Chrissy chime in as well if I missed anything. So so obviously not every staff member serves on a Senate committee. There are some Senate committees that staff don't have any representation on, like faculty benefits and things like that. They're not going to want us there. Obviously, we're all shaking our heads like we know why. That's okay. But and Chrissy, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are Senate committees that we appoint directly from USAC. There are some instances that we kind of recommend, but the president's office will do it, if I'm not mistaken. It kind of depends on committee by committee. And I know we're actively trying to get more representation on those committees. So some of those folks will be staff senators. Some of those folks might be staff at the university or USAC members. We do have a tiered process of how we try to fill those vacancies. But it really kind of just depends on the year what openings are up and what are those stipulations for individual committees, if that makes sense. I probably did not explain that well, but Chrissy, that's generally the way the process works. I don't know if there's a better way to explain it.
Yeah, no, you did a great job. So as Stephen said, not all Senate committees have staff representation. And this year, Senate Steering had formed an ad hoc committee to kind of look at the Senate structure. And USAC is very cognizant of, where do we really want to push to have a staff voice? So there may be changes coming down the road where we'll have more of a staff voice. I know this is a new process for all of us. USAC has thought thoroughly about, what is the role of a staff senator versus a USAC member? Because typically in prior years, it would be a USAC member that would serve on some of these Senate committees, but we want the staff senators to really be active in Senate. So we give top priority to staff senators to be on these committees, and then we trickle it down to staff senator alum as we get more alum throughout the years. And then we go to USAC members, USAC alum, and then we'll open it up to the staff at large.
Very helpful. Thank you, Chrissy and Stephen, for that.
Sure.
And I know that process also, it can be a little confusing looking at the Senate website itself, because I believe faculty do submit like a list of preferences. So it's very different than how the staff senators get picked on various committees. So if you're looking at the Senate website, it's based on that structure, because their version of USAC is faculty council. So it's a very different process. In terms of your other question, Ashley, about checking in with various constituencies. So I'll give a tangible example, which is one of the big issues that was a subject of a lot of different debate at Senate over the past year and a half at this point, having to do with COVID, was the proposal of an emergency grading scale for students. So in terms of that, essentially, one of the things the pandemic came to light was that Ohio State had nothing on the books for how could we change the grading scale at the university at a moment's notice in a time of mass crisis. And there was just no, like, in case of emergency break glass type policy to be able to use. And so that is largely why I think anyone who either is an advisor, knows an advisor, or read any of the notices about the emergency policies this past year, it changed every semester. In spring 2020, autumn 2020, spring 2021, we had different grading scales each of those 3 semesters because there was nothing official. In terms of that, as an academic advisor, I had a little bit more of a knowledge of what are some potential implications, but I wanted to hear from some others across the advising community. So I know throughout the fall semester, especially as they were proposing the newest iteration of the policy, which is set to be the policy moving forward anytime there's an emergency grading scale, I met at least monthly with Amy Treboni, who is, I forget her official title, but she is like the head honcho in the advising community under Beth Human undergraduate education. So I met with her pretty regularly to hear a little bit what was going on at her level with the other directors of advising across campus, to hear kind of from their perspective what that group had been considering as recommendations, because they were doing a lot of research at what were other schools considering as well. Once some more tangible suggestions came up, I would touch base with some other advisors, not at the management level, but more at the frontline level, just to hear kind of from their perspective, what are those unintended consequences that inevitably come up when a policy is created for the people who would feel the impacts of that at the staff perspective, typically the advisors, but also hearing from folks in the registrar's office as well, because they're the ones who also would need to process a lot of the changes in the system on the back end. And hear, you know, what were they actually capable of with the staff that they have, and recognizing that a lot of the grade changes happen at the same time as they are processing graduation. They are doing financial aid for the next upcoming semester, and making sure it wasn't undue burden on that team as well. So not necessarily within my direct area of expertise, but, you know, adjacent campus partners who I would normally work with in my day-to-day, to hear what their thoughts were on the implications as well. So trying to get kind of a full array of things. Also the perk of working in an academic department, I've developed relationships with quite a few faculty in my department, and hearing from them kind of from the teaching perspective, where were their concerns? And so I think that's kind of one tangible example of where keeping in touch with those various constituencies can be helpful. Now, obviously that type of policy change is in the wheelhouse of advising. So I felt a lot more comfortable with that. There are, like Stephen was saying, there are 5 staff senators plus the 3 alternates picked from kind of a diverse array across campus. So the nice thing is, if something had come up more in like the research realm, we could have turned to like Lisa Mayhew, who worked in one of the research centers on campus, to hear kind of how would this affect the research scientists and the other staff who work in maybe that capacity. We had Tom, who worked over in IT services. So we could hear more things about how it would affect his realm of things, and IT under the health plan as well. So some health plan changes or anything along those lines we could hear from. So it's kind of nice that there's a diverse group of us, because across the board, we could hear from, you know, the 8 of us as one team, what might be going on in our neck of the woods, to hear how we might be able to assist and provide some diverse perspectives on it.
Thanks a lot, Alex. That was really helpful to hear how you're collaborating with peers, but then also with other, you know, members of our campus community, it's faculty, students. I mean, there's all sorts of different touch points along the way. And so it sounds like a very nice, considered approach to it. Thank you for sharing that example.
I'm also, I was also in a nice position. I am one of the staff who does take classes outside of the day-to-day job. And I've actually now taken classes with 2 professors who have been faculty senators. So that's also just led to some interesting conversations as well, hearing from their perspective too, which is not the typical staff senator experience. Not that there is typical when there's only been, you know, 10 of us tops, but it's just another way to build those relationships.
Just a quick follow-up comment to that, Alex. It's funny, I was looking through the different committee rosters, and I have a couple of degrees from Ohio State and have been a staff member for 6+ years. I was surprised at how many names I recognized. It was really kind of nice to see. I mean, obviously we work at a large institution, but I think there are some points where it becomes smaller, and it sounds like you've experienced that a little bit with your time on the Senate.
Definitely. And I would say too, I mean, as the case in most of these types of situations, you know, there's an old saying that like 20% of people do 80% of the work. When it comes to faculty, there are some faculty who do not care for the service elements, and there are some who absolutely love it. So I know my department had a former faculty senator who's since retired, who had been doing this for decades. I don't know how long, but he kept being up for re-election because he wanted to keep doing it. And there's enough other faculty who want to focus on their research or focus on their teaching. And you'll see a lot of the same crowd in the faculty aspects of University Senate. The students, on the other hand, change every couple of years. And of course, the staff, we're in it for 2-year terms in the Senate. But yeah, a lot of great ways to build some bridges and build some connections across the university.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, someone unmute.
Oh, sorry. Hi.
Oh, Megan, go ahead. Yep.
Hi, so I'm Megan Ninneman. I am over with the Office of Institutional Equity. And I just had a question about, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about if there were any, you know, I've heard about the great successes, but going into a role like this, would there be any
sage advice that you would want to pass along to the next generation, just to give a little bit of insight into maybe some lessons that you've learned?
Sure. And Megan, do you work with Molly Perino over there?
I sure do.
Please tell her I said hello. We went to South Carolina together, so I have not talked to her in a little bit here. So please tell her I said hey.
Oh, I absolutely will.
So in terms of, so this is what I mean by very small world at OSU. In terms of sage advice, just being open-minded to learning a lot of new things. There are some Senate meetings where we would have a presentation on some area of the university who either, it's their every few years, update to the Senate, where, I had no knowledge of. One of the in-person meetings we did was at the Wexner Center for the Arts. I had been to events there, had never, heard much about the various other things that go on there. And so one of the nice aspects of them still redoing Drinko Hall, where the Senate usually meets, was we actually got to go to Wexner Center for the Arts, have the meeting there, hear from the director of the center, and learn a lot more about some of the other services that they offer, which I think provides a more comprehensive view of things. Never thought I would pick up a lot of extra knowledge on the Wexner Center for the Arts as a staff senator going into things, but I think just being open-minded to hearing more about what's going on, because in terms of thinking about how various policies will affect staff, I know it was mentioned earlier, but staff are the largest constituency group at OSU with over 27,000 staff, and there are 5 senators and 3 alternates compared to, when you do the breakdown of faculty members, it's quite a different ratio there. And so being able to hear about some of those other perspectives opens up another world of, okay, how will this impact not just the folks in the advising community, but also the folks in the other communities that have representation just more directly from one of the staff senators or alternates coming from that group and spending their day-to-day roles there. But how will this also affect folks in the other elements of the university that maybe it's just easier to not, come to mind just because there's so many different staff roles across the university. So I think that is one aspect I would recommend. And then I think beyond that, go for it. And, if you get picked, fantastic. And if you don't, keep applying for other things. I think I did not have prior USAC experience before coming into the staff senator position. Most of my volunteer experience prior to that point was with one of the local staff advisory groups in the College of Engineering. And so there's lots of great ways to volunteer and advocate for staff. I knew about the one in my college. I did not know about the ones across all the different areas of the university until we attended one of the USAC retreats for all of the local staff advisory groups. And so likely there is a local version of that in your area, whether you know about it or not is a different piece. So find other ways to get involved because I think there's lots of great avenues to advocate for staff that at Ohio State, I think does better than a lot of other places. Because I think there are a lot of other schools that I've worked at where you will typically hear, staff are the backbone, and then that's kind of where the line stops. And then you never hear about staff again, and the staff don't necessarily have a representation to be able to meet the president regularly or a voice in the Senate or whatever their body of shared governance may be. But Ohio State takes the staff perspective very seriously. And so I think, even if you don't get one of the positions, be very open and look for other opportunities for staff advocacy, because there's lots of great ways to develop that, not only the skill set, but also just to support staff across the board.
Thanks, Alex. I know it's 4:46 on my end, so I want to be cognizant of time. Does anyone have a final question for me, Alex, or Megan, or even Megan or Chrissy that we can help with? If not, just to reiterate a few more key points. Like I said, I'll follow up by the end of the week with a copy of this presentation and a Qualtrics survey to hear back from you all on how we can improve this for future application cycles, and for everyone to have those embedded links for other opportunities to get involved with USAC. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if anyone has any follow-up questions. If I can answer it, I will try to triage it to someone else who can. But with that being said, Alex, thank you so much for being here. Megan, thank you for being here. Chrissy, thank you for being here. It's nice to see everyone, and stay safe, stay healthy, and don't hesitate to reach out if we can be a resource. With that being said, have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Yep, bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.